I froze when I saw my little girl sitting on the floor, her head completely shaved, while my younger sister stood over her laughing and swinging a handful of blonde hair like it was some kind of trophy. The sound of Emily sobbing cut through me, sharper than any knife, and in that instant I knew nothing in my life would ever be the same again. If you've ever had to stand up against your own family to protect your child, make sure you subscribe right now and tell me, what would you have done if this happened in your house? Her name is Emily. She is 8 years old, and she has always been proud of her long golden hair. She twirled it whenever she was daydreaming, flipped it behind her shoulders when she felt confident, and beamed whenever someone complimented it. It was her little crown, something she had been growing since she was 4. I am Lisa, 33 years old, a single mother living in Brooklyn. Raising Emily alone after my divorce has been the hardest and most rewarding part of my life. We built our own world together, full of bedtime stories, art projects, and Saturday pancakes. So when I saw her small body trembling in that bathroom, I felt rage rise inside me like a storm. My younger sister Tina, only 29, had always walked a dangerous line between jealousy and cruelty. When we were kids, she destroyed my prom dress the night before the dance. She told lies to my college boyfriend that ended our relationship. Even on my wedding day, she spilled red wine across my gown and smiled when people gasped. Mom always defended her, saying I was overreacting, saying Tina was just playing around. But now she had crossed a line no one could excuse. Emily had been lured upstairs during our family gathering at my mother's house. The cousins were supposed to be playing video games. Instead, Tina pulled out brand new clippers she had bragged about buying. She forced Emily into the bathroom, told the other kids to hold her still, and buzzed off every strand of her hair while recording it on her phone. My sweet girl screamed for help, begged them to stop, but no one came. By the time I pushed open that door, the damage was done. Emily's hair lay scattered across the tiles like pieces of her broken confidence. Her face was blotchy from crying, her eyes wide with shame and fear. And Tina, she was still laughing, saying it was just a joke, saying it would grow back. But I saw what was really there, the jealousy burning in her eyes as she looked at my child. In that moment, something inside me snapped. It was not just about hair. It was about power. It was about years of cruelty my family had brushed aside. And this time, they had targeted the one person I would burn the world to protect. I gathered Emily into my arms, her tiny fingers clutching my shirt as she sobbed against my chest. And as I looked around at the faces of relatives crowding the hallway, some shocked, some even amused, I made a silent promise. This would never happen again. When I carried Emily downstairs, her little head hidden against my shoulder, I expected the whole family to explode with outrage. I thought someone, anyone, would rush to defend her. Instead, silence filled the room for one long second. And then my mother spoke. She sighed, as if we had just spilled juice on her rug. It's only hair. Lisa, you are overreacting. Overreacting. My daughter had been pinned down, shaved like she was some kind of doll. And my mother called it a prank. Emily buried her face deeper into me, and my heart broke a second time. Tina stood at the bottom of the stairs, grinning like she had just won a game. She even lifted her phone, proud of the video she had taken. Relax. It is funny. Look, I got the whole thing on camera. She shoved the screen toward me, replaying Emily's screams and sobs, and some of our cousins actually laughed. Not nervous giggles, actual laughter. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab every single person in that room and shake them until they understood what they had just allowed to happen. Instead, I turned to my father. His face was pale, his lips pressed into a thin line, but he said nothing. He never did. Growing up, Dad always chose silence. Mom controlled the house, and Dad just stood in the corner, pretending not to see. And now here he was again, frozen while his granddaughter sobbed in my arms. Are you all blind? I demanded. They held her down. They cut off her hair against her will. That is assault. Don't be dramatic, my mother snapped. her eyes narrowing. She will be fine in a week. Tina was just having fun. Fun. My daughter was trembling in my arms. Her confidence shattered. And this was fun. I looked at Aunt Helen, my mom's older sister, the only one in the room who seemed horrified. She touched Emily's back gently, whispering, "Sweetheart, you are so brave," and I knew she was the only one who saw the truth. Meanwhile, Tina strutted around like a star of some reality show. "Everyone's already reacting in the family group chat," she bragged. 20 likes already. Wait until I upload this to TikTok." My blood ran cold. It was not enough that she had humiliated Emily in front of family. She wanted the whole world to laugh at her too. I lunged at Tina, my hand shooting for her phone, but she skipped back, laughing. "Careful. Lisa. Don't want to look crazy in front of everyone." At that moment, I realized the truth. This was not just a cruel sister. This was a woman so eaten up by jealousy, so desperate for attention, that she would destroy an innocent child just to feel powerful. And my family, they were going to let her. Emily clung to me, whispering through her tears, "Mommy, can we go home? Please." I looked around that living room, at the cousins smirking, at my mother scowling like I had ruined her dinner, at my father shrinking into silence. And I knew Emily was right. We could not stay. I kissed her damp cheek and whispered back, "Yes, baby. We are leaving." But as I turned toward the door, Tina blocked my path with a smug little smile. "Going somewhere. You are not leaving until dinner is over." And that was the exact second I decided. If no one else was going to protect Emily, then I would, no matter what it cost. Because what happened next, no one in that house was ready for. Tina stood in front of me, holding her phone like it was a weapon, her smile daring me to make a move. Emily gripped my arm tighter, her little body shaking, and I could feel her heart pounding through her chest. I lowered my voice, trying to stay calm for her sake. "Move, Tina, we are leaving." She tilted her head, still smirking. "Or what? You gonna slap me in front of everyone?" The room went silent again. Everyone watching, waiting for me to snap. And for a split second, I wanted to, but then I looked at Emily's tear-streaked face, and I knew I had to be smarter than that. I handed Emily gently into Aunt Helen's arms and stepped closer to Tina. "Give me the phone," I said. "No way. This video is gold." She laughed, backing up a step. The anger inside me boiled over. "You held down a child against her will. That is assault. And now you are bragging about it." Gasps rippled through a few cousins, but Tina just rolled her eyes. "You are so dramatic, Lisa. She will be fine. Hair grows back. Maybe now people will stop acting like she is some little princess." And that was it. That one bitter sentence told me everything I needed to know. This was never about a prank. It was about jealousy, pure and simple. I lunged, faster than I thought I could move, and slapped the phone from her hand. It clattered across the floor, the screen lighting up with the frozen image of Emily sobbing while Tina laughed behind the camera. The room exploded. My mother rushed to Tina's side, clutching her arm like she was the victim. "How dare you hit your sister in my house?" she snapped. "You should be ashamed." Ashamed, not of what Tina had done, but of me. I stood tall, my hands trembling but my voice steady. "You should be ashamed. You let this happen under your roof. You watched your daughter torment me my whole life, and now she has attacked my child, and you still defend her." For the first time, my father finally spoke. "Margaret, enough," he said, his voice low but firm. Everyone turned to him, shocked that he had raised his voice at all. "She shaved the head of an 8-year-old girl. That is not a joke. That is abuse." The words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Tina grabbed her phone off the floor, her face red with fury. "Fine. Call it abuse. But that video is already saved to the cloud. You cannot stop me." I stepped closer, staring her down. "Then enjoy explaining to the police how you uploaded evidence of yourself assaulting a child." For the first time all night, I saw fear flash across her eyes. I turned back to Aunt Helen. "Take Emily outside. Get her in my car." I will grab our things. Helen nodded quickly, guiding my daughter out the door as Tina's fake confidence began to crumble. Some relatives shifted uncomfortably, suddenly realizing they had been laughing at something criminal. Others still looked at me like I was the problem. I did not care anymore. Emily was all that mattered. And as I packed up our bags, my mother hissed from behind me, "If you walk out that door, Lisa, don't bother coming back. Family loyalty means something to us." I turned slowly, meeting her eyes. Loyalty means protecting the people you love. If this is your definition of family, then we are better off without it. And with that, I walked out, closing the door behind me. But what waited for us outside, on that quiet street in Brooklyn, was something I never expected. The night air outside felt heavy, like even the street was holding its breath. Aunt Helen was standing by my car, her arm wrapped protectively around Emily, who was curled up in the passenger seat with a blanket over her shoulders. Her small face was blotchy, her eyes red, but she looked at me with relief when I appeared. "We are going home, baby," I whispered as I kissed her forehead. "You are safe now." Helen handed me Emily's little backpack. "She kept asking if you were really coming back out. I told her you would never leave her." My chest tightened. That was the saddest part, even for a moment. Emily had feared I might abandon her the same way the rest of the family had. I started the car, my hands gripping the steering wheel harder than I realized, and we drove away from the house I grew up in. Through the window, I caught one last glimpse of my mother standing on the porch beside Tina. Mom's arms were crossed, Tina's smug grin plastered on her face, as if she had somehow won. But the truth was, they had lost me forever. The drive back to Brooklyn was quiet, except for Emily's soft sniffles. Every traffic light felt like an eternity, every passing car like an audience to our shame. She pulled the blanket tighter around her head and whispered, "What if people see me? Mom, what if they laugh at me?" I swallowed hard. "There is nothing wrong with how you look, but you can keep the blanket if it makes you feel better right now." At home, I ran a warm bath and poured in her favorite lavender bubbles. She slid into the tub, silent at first, then finally asked in a trembling voice, "Why does Aunt Tina hate me? How do you explain jealousy and cruelty to an 8-year-old? I crouched beside her and brushed the water over her shoulders. "She does not hate you. She is unhappy with herself, so she hurts others. But that has nothing to do with you. You are perfect." Emily stared down at the bubbles, then whispered, "Grandma called me a bad name. She said bastard child. What does that mean?" The rage I had been holding back boiled up again, but I forced myself to breathe before answering. "It is an old mean word that is not true. Grandma was wrong to say it, and she was wrong about everything tonight." Later, tucked into bed in her favorite pajamas, Emily asked if she could sleep in my room. Of course I said yes. She curled up against me, her little hand gripping mine like a lifeline, and in the darkness she whispered, "I am not brave." I cried the whole time. I kissed her forehead and stroked her back. Being brave does not mean you do not cry. Being brave means you keep going, even when you are scared. And you, Emily, are the bravest person I know. She drifted to sleep at last, her breathing steady. But I stayed awake, my mind racing. I knew this was bigger than just a family fight. This was about justice, about protecting my daughter from ever being hurt again. So while Emily slept, I picked up my phone. I called a lawyer friend. I called a child psychologist. And then, with shaking hands, I called the police. Because if my family would not protect Emily, the law would. And what happened after those calls changed everything. The morning after those phone calls felt like the first step into a brand new world. It was not easy. The police came to take statements, the lawyer explained what charges could be filed, and the child psychologist set up an emergency appointment for Emily. But for the first time in years, I felt like I was no longer trapped in silence. Emily sat in the psychologist's office clutching a scarf around her head. Dr. Bennett, a kind woman with gentle eyes, knelt beside her and said, "That scarf is beautiful. It makes your eyes shine." For the first time since that night. Emily smiled. That smile told me everything. Healing was possible. Week by week, Emily started to rebuild. She wore colorful hats and scarves to school, and her classmates surprised us with kindness. One of her best friends even showed up with a brand new buzz cut, just to match her, just to say, "You are not alone." At home, I kept reminding her that bravery was not about looking strong. It was about moving forward even when you felt broken. And slowly, I watched her transform from a scared little girl into a child who knew her worth. As for me, I faced the truth too. I realized family is not just blood. Family is love, protection, and respect. And if the people who share your DNA cannot give you that, then you have every right to walk away. Yes. My mother and my sister tried to reach out later. Yes, they begged me to say it was all a misunderstanding, but I had finally learned that loyalty does not mean letting toxic people stay in your life. It means protecting the ones who cannot protect themselves. And Emily is my everything. The charges against Tina went forward. She lost her job. She faced public shame. And she was ordered into counseling. For once in her life, she could not laugh her way out of consequences. But this story was never about her. It was about my daughter, and the lesson that came from protecting her. So here is what I want you to take away. Do not let anyone convince you that blood is thicker than love. Do not stay silent when someone you love is being hurt. And do not be afraid to set boundaries, even if it means walking away from people who claim to be family. Because in the end, real family is not who you are born to. It is who shows up for you. It is who makes you feel safe. It is who loves you without conditions. Now I want to hear from you. If your own family did something like this, would you press charges? Or would you try to forgive them? Do you think family loyalty should ever excuse abuse? Or is walking away sometimes the bravest choice of all? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I know this is going to spark debate. And if this story touched you, if it made you feel something, do me one favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who needs to hear that it is okay to choose peace over toxicity. Because healing is always possible, even after the deepest betrayal, and our story is living proof of that.